Discover 7 incredible mindset secrets that will transform your life and bend the world to you. The blaring headline leaped off the page, wrapping around Emily like a warm blanket on a cold night. She looked up from the coffee pot at the faded walls of the diner, stained with memories of better days. She squeezed the pot tightly, feeling the weight of every moment she poured into waiting cups. Her heart raced. This could be it, the lifeline she'd been hoping for that morning. Amid the murmur of nostalgic men recounting glory days that faded long before her time, Emily's mind buzzed with potential. What if those secrets could crack the shell around Maplewood? What if they were her ticket to a better life for her spirited 7-year-old son, Jake? His laughter filled their small apartment with warmth, but reality chilled her. Bills piled up like winter's snow, heavy and unrelenting. "Hey, Em, you all right?" asked old Mr. Jenkins as he retrieved his cup, his weathered eyes softening as he studied her. "Just dreaming a little," she replied, a teasing smile trying to mask the storm in her chest. The truth was, she felt invisible here, under the weight of judgment from neighbors who believed a hard day's work was the only answer. After her shift, with Jake's drawing of his imaginary superhero clutched in her hand, Emily made a decision: she was going to that seminar. She signed up, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. Yet, as she walked home, doubts gnawed at her. Her father, a proud Vietnam vet, always preached the value of grit over dreams. Would he think she was foolish, wasting time chasing fantasies? Days passed. Emily found herself stretched thin between work and Jake's needs. The doubts were relentless, murmurs of disapproval from the community creeping in with every step. But each time she sat down to explore those mindset secrets, fire ignited within her. They urged her to see beyond Maplewood, envision the life she could craft, one filled with possibilities, not limitations. Just when she thought she could break through, a torrent of rain swept through the town, flooding her neighbors' homes and marking the culmination of her fears. Maplewood transformed overnight into a landscape of chaos and despair. As she looked out at the destruction, her heart ached for the people who, just days earlier, had dismissed her hopes. This was a turning point. Among the wreckage, she felt a pull to unify her community. She rallied those who doubted her, reminding them that together, they could rebuild not just the town, but their very mindsets. The air was thick with unease as she stood before a crowd gathered at the town hall, her voice trembling yet resolute. "If we combine our strengths, we can rise from this storm, stronger than before." Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The room stirred with cautious whispers, hope flickered in the air. But just as the energy shifted, Emily's father confronted her, his voice heavy with tradition. "You represent everything that's wrong, Em. What about our roots? Our family?" His words pierced her heart, echoing the fears she'd tried to silence. Caught between her dreams and the legacy of her father, Emily faced a gut-wrenching choice. Was she to remain or step forward? Could she carry both her ambition and her love for her family? A storm brewed within, leaving everyone wondering, will transformation arrive with sacrifice, or is there a way to honor both sides of her heart? Emily stood frozen, the biting words of her father hanging in the air, heavy and raw. The room fell into a hush, the flickering lights above casting shadows on faces that mirrored her internal struggle. Do I represent what's wrong? The question echoed in her mind like a relentless drumbeat. She glanced at the townspeople, their expressions a mix of uncertainty and curiosity. They were not just faces from the diner, they were her neighbors, the very fabric of Maplewood. "Dad, I'm not giving up on us," she finally said, her voice a soft but steady tremor. "I want more for Jake. I want more for everyone." A flicker of something, could it be support? Passed through the crowd, and for a brief moment, she dared to hope. The tension in the room shifted, though her father's fierce gaze remained locked on her. "You're going to get hurt, Em. People don't change just because you will them to." His words stung, laced with the fear that gripped his own heart. But standing there, fueled by the knowledge that she needed to protect not just her dreams but also the futures of her friends and family, Emily felt courage swell inside her. What if changing our mindset is the very first step, Dad? What if we reunite this town by believing we deserve better? Finally, her voice rose above the murmurs. I know things are broken right now. We've been through storms before. We can be stronger together, we can build that future brick by brick. Her words poured out like the rain that had soaked their town, passionate and full of possibility. A young mother, her eyes still puffy from crying over the loss of her home, stepped forward. Emily, I want to believe you. But how do we even start? Relief washed over Emily. It wasn't just her standing there anymore, it was a community beginning to awaken. Let us gather supplies, create a plan, Emily suggested, her thoughts racing. We can set up meetings, workshops, fundraisers. We can sponsor resilience training. Let us help each other, teach one another to dream again. Encouragement rippled through the room. Old Mr. Jenkins, leaning heavily on his cane, offered a slow clap, a smile breaking through the lines of his face. She's onto something here. We've weathered storms before, we helped each other rebuild. It's time to do it again. As the crowd warmed to her ideas, she caught her father watching, a relentless storm still brewing behind his eyes. Yet, something softened there too. Perhaps the call to action began to thaw his reservations. In a matter of minutes, the energy shifted from despair to hope. Townsfolk started throwing out ideas. How about bake sales? Or community gardens? The enthusiasm surged like a tide, a blueprint forming in front of her very eyes. But as the first meeting set for the following week drew closer, the weight of uncertainty crept back. Emily knew leading this effort came with risks. The ghosts of doubt lingered, whispers from her father, and the cautious opinions of neighbors still gnawing at her resolve. What if it all fell apart? As thoughts spun, her eyes landed on Jake, now drawing with renewed vigor, a superhero on the page with his giant grin. He looked up, eyes sparkling with innocence. Mom, are we really going to make everything better again? His simple question broke her heart open. A tear slipped down her cheek. Yes, honey. We are. But in the depths of her heart, a flicker of fear lodged. Would this journey be as empowering as their dreams, or would it tear the community apart again? As she left the town hall, the sky darkened once more, a looming reminder that she was just beginning to battle the elements of hope and fear. Would the community rally behind her dreams, or would she stand alone, still fighting for what could be? Emily took a deep breath, the cool evening air tasting faintly of rain. Each step home felt heavier than the last, the weight of community expectations pressing down upon her. As she walked, thoughts collided in her mind. What if she led them down a path that only led to disappointment? The shadows of doubt curled at the edges of her resolve, whispering doubts she fiercely fought to silence. Jake was still perched at the kitchen table, surrounded by scattered crayons and vast blank sheets of paper. His artwork, a vibrant mix of colors, spilled across the surface, transforming the mundane into a world full of life and possibility. Yet, the light in his eyes reminded her of the urgency in their situation. For his sake, she had to find a way to bring this town back together. Mom, can I show you something? Jake's voice cut through her spiral of worries. He turned his masterpiece toward her, an intricate drawing of a bustling community garden, filled with towering sunflowers, happy people, and vegetables sprawling across the ground. This is where everyone plants stuff together. Can we really do it? His enthusiasm didn't just pull at her heart, it tugged at the very threads of her being. Yeah, we can. The more she thought about his drawing, the more it unfolded in her mind. A community garden could be the start of something beautiful, a symbol of unity and resilience. But it won't be just for us. It'll be for everyone in Maplewood. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Emily motioned for Jake to stay put and opened it. Standing there was Mrs. Peterson, the elderly lady from down the block, her arms laden with a box of canned goods. I thought I could contribute, she announced softly, but her eyes shimmered with determination. We can start fresh, can't we? Absolutely. Mrs. Peterson, that's perfect. We're planning a community garden. You can help. Emily felt a rush of excitement. This was the spark she had been waiting for. This was how they could unite. Word spread quickly in the neighborhood. Emily found herself organizing meetings, enlisting volunteers, and sketching plans for the garden with renewed vigor. The community rallied behind her. Young and old came together, sharing ideas and resources. The town hall buzzed with anticipation as families signed up, bringing their tools, seeds, and hope. Yet, amid this blossoming energy, Emily's father's warning lingered in the recesses of her mind. What if, despite their efforts, the project turned into a mess? What if the town did not see eye to eye? No amount of planning could stave off failure. Could she truly take on the burden of their shared aspirations? As the sun dipped below the horizon, bathing Maplewood in shades of orange and purple, Emily stood at the newly cleared lot where the community garden would soon flourish. The laughter and chatter around her felt like a warm blanket, but her heart raced with uncertainty. What if the dreams of everyone depended on one small seed of hope she had planted? A deep ache formed in her chest as she wrestled with the reality that success or failure would fall squarely on her shoulders. Just then, a figure emerged from the crowd. It was her father, his expression inscrutable as he stepped forward. "Emily," he said firmly, drawing closer. "I need to talk to you." Her heart thudded against her ribs. The moment felt monumental, and her stomach twisted with apprehension. Would he finally support her, or was he here to cast a shadow over everything she fought for? Did he believe in her vision, or was she destined to stand alone with this dream? The question hung in the air, heavy with potential, leaving Emily braced for whatever came next. The air thickened with tension, and Emily felt as if the world around her faded, leaving only the two of them in sharp focus. She searched her father's face for a hint of approval or acceptance, something that would affirm her efforts and ease the burden on her heart. "What is it, Dad?" she managed to ask, her voice barely above a whisper. She could see lines of worry etched on his forehead, and it struck her that he, too, felt the weight of this moment, the ripple effects of what they were trying to create in Maplewood. "I've been watching what you're doing," he said slowly, his voice steady but tinged with an edge of concern. "You're a good kid, Em, and I admire your ambition. But this isn't just planting seeds in the ground. It's about bringing a community back together, and that's not easy." "I know that," Emily replied, a rush of frustration boiling beneath her skin. "But you should see everyone. They're excited, they're ready to make something beautiful from nothing. We can do this, Dad. I can do this." He studied her for a moment, and she felt the intensity behind his gaze. It was the gaze of a man weighing risks, calculating odds. "What if it fails? What if people turn on you?" he asked, the apprehension knitted in his brow deepening. "You could lose their trust, lose your heart." Emily's resolve steeled. "But what if it succeeds? What if we create something that lasts? A place where we can all come together? I can't let fear stop us." The moment thickened, each word hanging in the air like a fruit ripe for picking. Jake had silently positioned himself nearby, his little hands clutching a crayon as he listened intently. Emily, sensing his presence, glanced at her son. His eyes were wide and filled with admiration, unwavering support from a child who believed in his mother's dream. Her father's expression softened as he took in the enthusiasm radiating from the young boy. "Jake," he said softly, kneeling to meet his gaze. "Do you really believe in this?" "Yes," Jake exclaimed, his voice a burst of pure confidence. "We can make it the best garden ever." In that moment, Emily saw it, the flicker of hope in her father's eyes, a glimmer of the support she yearned for. Before she could savor that flicker, he rose to his full height, resolve settling into his frame. "All right," he said, a note of caution woven through his voice. "I'll help. But only if we approach this carefully. No rushing into things without a plan." Relief washed over her like a warm tide. "Thank you, Dad. Together, we can figure it out." As the trio stepped back into the gathering crowd, Emily felt a swell of energy. The community garden wasn't just an idea anymore, it was a movement. With her father by her side and Jake's dreams coiling around them like ribbons of sunlight, she felt powers come together, determined to sow seeds of hope. Yet through the excitement, a nagging worry settled back in. Would the thrill of support last? What if doubts returned once reality set in? With each smile shared and every hand raised, she pondered the upcoming challenges. Would they be able to plant not just seeds in the earth but also trust in the heart of Maplewood? As night fell around them, the promise of tomorrow shimmered dimly. Somewhere in that vast expanse, she knew they'd find both the struggles and joys of their new journey. But what if the greatest challenge was yet to come? The days rolled by like autumn leaves caught in a gentle breeze, each one blending into the next with a mix of hope and uncertainty. Emily felt that burgeoning energy ripple through the community. The garden project was no longer a secret conversation whispered in shadows, it had taken shape in the minds of Maplewood's residents. Every Saturday turned into a makeshift festival, buzzing with activity. Families gathered with trowels and seeds, laughter spilling into the crisp air as children darted between adults, their tiny hands eagerly clutching packets of colorful flower seeds. When Emily looked at Jake, she saw his excitement mirrored in every face around them. Yet, somewhere beneath the surface of that excitement, a seed of doubt took root in her heart. "Are you sure we can manage this?" she asked her father one evening as they cleaned up after their first official meeting. They had gathered ideas, sketches, and partnerships, a tapestry of visions woven together. "What if we lose sight of what we started?" Her father leaned against a tree, his eyes scanning the fading sunset, a hint of nostalgia in his expression. "Every great change comes with fear, Emily. We just have to remember why we started." He looked at her, pride gleaming in his voice. "You've already done what many wouldn't dream of doing. You brought people together." Just then, a small figure broke through the crowd of adults. Jake approached with a muddy face and hands streaked in dirt, clutching a freshly picked sunflower taller than him. "Look, Mommy! Isn't it beautiful?" he chirped, his joy exploding like the vibrant petals in his hands. Emily knelt, the weight of her worries lifting for a moment. "It's perfect, buddy!" she exclaimed, and he beamed. But as she admired his floral treasure, a thought flickered uninvited: would that same joy last through the storms they were bound to face? A week later, a dark cloud rolled over their progress. An unexpected storm swept through Maplewood, heavy rain flooding the fields. Emily stood at the edge of the ground where they detoiled, watching in despair as muddy waters threatened to swallow the young seedlings. Panic surged in her chest. Had all their efforts been swallowed by the very earth they trusted to nourish them? "Mommy! Look!" Jake shouted, pulling her attention back to the chaos. A group of kids had formed a chain, passing buckets of sand to build a makeshift levee to divert the water. "We can save it." In that moment, Emily witnessed the heart of Maplewood. The garden wasn't just her dream, it was a symbol, a lifeline pulling so many together. With renewed resolve, she sprinted to join the children, rallying the adults around her. As they worked side by side, battling nature's fury, she felt her connection to them solidify. There was a fierce beauty in their collaboration, a raw power that bound them. But she couldn't ignore the nagging fear twisting in her gut. What if this chaos shattered everything they had fought to build? Just as it seemed the worst had passed, news rippled through the crowd: the town council was questioning the garden's viability, citing safety concerns. Emily's heart sank, a sharp crash echoing in her chest. "Is it worth fighting for?" she murmured to herself as the sun slipped behind the clouds, her heart torn between hope and dread. What would be the next move? Would they stand united against this new challenge, or would they watch their hopes drown in the flood? Emily knew the answer rested in the hands of the people she had come to admire so deeply. And as the rain cleared, illuminating a fragile rainbow in the sky, she sensed that one choice could shift everything. But would they be ready to take that leap? The morning after the storm felt different. The air was crisp with a hint of moisture, but the aftermath created an odd sense of clarity. Emily stood at the garden's edge, surveying the remnants of their work. The sun broke through the clouds, casting warm light on the muddy ground. Hanging like a promise, the rainbow from last night still tinged the horizon. But the optimism faded as she remembered the council's meeting. A blend of uncertainty and determination twisted inside her. She took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. Today, they would need to band together more than ever. The garden was more than just a patch of soil, it was their heartbeat. "Mommy!" Jake's voice rang through the air, pulling her from her thoughts. He marched over, a bucket in one hand and a small shovel in the other. "Let us fix it." I can help. His enthusiasm lit a spark in her chest. Yes, you can. She smiled, ruffling his hair. We'll make it even better. As they began to salvage what remained, Emily called out to the gathering crowd. Let us show the council what we can do. It's time to prove we're all in this together. She watched as faces filled with purpose. Neighbors poured out of their homes, sleeves rolled up, ready to get dirty. They moved like a well-rehearsed dance, laughter echoing as they shared tools and ideas, the energy sparking with renewed life. Look! I found more seeds. One volunteer shouted as he dug into a waterlogged area. He held up a packet in triumph, and cheers erupted around him. Emily felt warmth spread through her, a feeling as vivid as the morning light. But right behind the excitement, doubt crept in like a shadow. What if this isn't enough? She murmured to herself, watching as the sky transitioned from a hopeful blue to a steely gray. As the team worked tirelessly, the sounds of chatter and laughter intertwined, creating an exhilarating rhythm. They cleared debris, piled up sandbags, and even shared stories of gardens past their ancestral roots, their own childhood experiences, the role of family and community. Suddenly, the clanging of a bell echoed in the distance. The council members were approaching. Just moments ago, it had felt like a celebration, but now dread washed over her. Every step they took seemed to suck the energy from the air. Listen, everyone, Emily called out, striving to maintain coherence in the rising anxiety. We need to show them how important this garden is, not just to us, but to the whole town. We can't give up. The council members stopped at the edge, peering over the work unfolding before them. Emily stepped forward, heart pounding. In that moment, everything felt fragile, a whisper, a spark, a plea for connection. This isn't just a garden, she said, her voice steady despite the tremor within. We're growing hope, together. It's not just flowers, it's our community. The silence felt deafening. She exchanged glances with Jake, who gave her an encouraging nod. She wanted to believe that their united front mattered, that they could change minds with their sheer determination. As the council began to converse among themselves, their expressions unreadable, Emily's stomach churned. What would they decide? Could her heart bear the weight of rejection after everything they had built? And then, amid her swirling thoughts, one of the council members stepped forward. We need to consider, he started, eyes scanning the garden and the faces of those who dared to dream. As Emily held her breath, she wondered if they were finally on the brink of a decision that could either breathe life into their aspirations or let them fall like the last leaves of autumn. What would they choose to do next, and was she ready for whatever came through those doors? The council member cleared his throat, glancing back at his companions, and Emily felt her heart racing. Time stood still. Every whisper of wind through the trees felt amplified, every soft murmur from the crowd a tidal wave of anxiety. It was like they were all holding their breath, waiting for a sign, waiting for hope. I understand your passion, he continued, his voice measured but firm. But the weight of that edged into the air like a looming storm cloud. Emily's heart dropped. She fought to keep her expression neutral, not wanting to show her fear. Around her, she could see the faces of her neighbors flicker through moments of optimism into shadowy doubt. They had put their hearts into this garden. What would it mean if the council extinguished their hopes? We've seen you working hard, another council member chimed in, her tone softer, perhaps more understanding. Your efforts haven't gone unnoticed. We believe the garden has potential, but the but felt like a heavy anchor. Emily stepped closer. We can transform it. We have ideas, community events, classes for kids. We can even bring in local businesses for support. This garden is the heart of our community. Her voice rose, fueled by urgency. The council members exchanged glances, their expressions shifting ever so slightly. A glimmer of consideration appeared in their eyes. What if we set up a trial period? One of the elders offered. If you can show sustained efforts and results over the summer, Emily exhaled, her breath releasing all the tension she'd been holding. Yes. We can do that. The words burst forth, buoyed by relief and a flicker of hope. The garden could breathe again. The crowd erupted into applause, a symphony of joy echoing across the muddy earth where moments ago stood remnants of doubt. Laughter filled the air as neighbors hugged, their relief palpable. Jake jumped up, clapping his hands, a bright grin painting his face, but as the council members resumed their conversation, a different unease began to swirl in Emily's mind. A trial period meant pressure. Could they keep up the momentum? What about the plans for the Harvest Festival that had already been stunted by the storm? As she glanced around, her gaze met Jake's. The earnestness in his eyes pushed her forward. "This is our chance," she whispered, half to him and half to herself. "But what do we do next?" That lingering question hung like an unspoken promise. They needed a plan, a solid foundation to build upon this renewed hope. Gradually, as applause faded, Emily turned to the crowd. "Who's with me? We can gather ideas together." There were cheers, yells of enthusiasm, a resounding chorus echoing back at her. This was the moment to seize. They could transform the garden, but it meant committing more than they ever had before. Emily felt a renewed sense of purpose burning within. "Let us meet tomorrow to brainstorm broader plans," she asserted, because she knew now they weren't just fighting for a garden, they were fighting for their sense of home. Even with the energy pulsing through her, a thought nagged at the corners of her mind. Could they actually pull this off? When the sun dipped lower, showering the garden in a golden hue, Emily's heart was filled with equal parts hope and trepidation. She felt it deep in her bones, the weight of what lay ahead. The moment of truth had merely shifted, it loomed just beyond the horizon. Could hope really grow where despair once was? And could they all cultivate that together in time? Each sunset would bring them closer to their new reality, but with every passing day, fresh challenges would rise. Would they be prepared for what was to come? Emily barely slept that night, her mind racing with possibilities and plans. The garden loomed in her thoughts, a canvas waiting for vibrant strokes of community spirit. She could picture it filled with laughter and color, a place where children could run and play and neighbors could find solace. But as dawn broke, so did the reality of the challenges ahead. The next morning, Emily gathered with the group in the garden. The sun warmed their faces, a gentle reminder that they were starting anew. "All right, everyone. Today's all about ideas," she exclaimed, her enthusiasm spilling into the cool morning air. Jake stood next to her, his fists clenched and eyes sparkling with excitement. "What if we held weekend workshops? We can teach people to plant their own gardens, share recipes, maybe even have a farmer's market." The crowd buzzed with chatter, each idea building on the last. Someone suggested a local artist mural, another proposed music nights under the stars. Emily's heart swelled. They were alive with energy and purpose. As they brainstormed, an older woman spoke up. "Emily, we have to think about sustainability too. It can't just be a summer project. We need something that lasts beyond this trial period." Her words settled over the group like a gentle rain. Emily nodded, deep in thought. They had to salvage not only the garden but the very fabric of their community. "You're right," she said, "let us make this garden self-sufficient. Maybe we can set up a recycling program?" Smiles and nods followed. Ideas flowed like a sweet stream. They discussed partnerships with local businesses, seeking donations for supplies, and the possibility of a co-op to help fund the garden's upkeep. With every passing hour, Emily's worries began to melt away, replaced by a sense of camaraderie. But somewhere deep inside, uncertainty still lurked. What if the ideas fell flat? What if they weren't enough to sustain the garden through the season? As people began to wrap up their discussions, Emily decided to address the group again. "Listen, I know this isn't just about a garden. It's about our home. Let us promise to stay united. Even if things get tough, we'll figure it out together." The group erupted in cheers, their spirits high. Still, Emily felt that familiar ripple of doubt. What if this enthusiasm faded like whispers on the wind? That afternoon, as everyone slowly dispersed, Jake lingered back, his expression serious. "Emily, do you really think this will work? What if we can't keep it going?" Her heart sank. "I want to believe it will, Jake. But it's not going to be easy." She held his gaze, uncertainty clawing at her resolve. We can't afford to let it fail, he said quietly. Not after everything. His words felt heavier than she anticipated. A knot twisted in her stomach. They had every reason to push forward, but doubt crept in, as relentless as the weeds in their garden. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows, Emily contemplated the days ahead. The path whispered promises of growth but also hinted at unseen obstacles. The excitement of the gathered ideas clashed with a troubling thought: what if their passion wouldn't be enough? Determined, she said, let us put everything we have into this, Jake. It's our only chance. Tomorrow, we'll meet with the businesses. We'll make this work. But deep down, she realized the truth. This was more than just a garden to her, it was a whole slice of her heart, and with that flicker of belief, she paused, wondering if the hope they were fighting for could withstand the storm that was bound to come. Tomorrow would bring meetings, challenges, and critical decisions. Would their united front stand strong against what lay ahead? Or would they crumble beneath the weight of their own dreams? Morning arrived like a whisper, soft and hesitant. Emily stirred awake, the light pushing through her curtains, painting her room in warm golden hues. Today held the weight of dreams and challenges intermixed. She lay still for a moment, gathering her thoughts, trying to set her mind to the tasks ahead. The meeting with local businesses loomed like a shadow, but it was also a beacon of hope, a chance to form alliances. The garden was still fresh in her mind, a realm bursting with potential. After a quick breakfast, she stepped outside, feeling the crisp air flutter against her skin, as if the world was gently nudging her forward. Her heart raced with a melody of fear and excitement. What if they didn't take her seriously? What if they laughed at her grand vision? Jake met her at the entrance of the garden, determination etched on his face. Are you ready? He asked, his tone serious. As ready as I'll ever be, she sighed, gripping the strap of her bag tightly. The path to the community center felt longer than usual, each step weighed down by 1,000 thoughts. What if she stumbled over her words? What if the plan didn't resonate with the business owners? What if just breathe, Jake said, perceptive as ever. He kept pace, matching her increasing anxiety with his steady presence. When they arrived, the center was buzzing with life. Local vendors, bakers, and craftsmen were setting up booths, a tapestry of their community weaving together. Emily was amazed at the vibrancy surrounding her. She walked through the room, a quick glance gave her a pulse of inspiration. With her heart thumping, she approached the designated meeting area. The atmosphere shifted as they gathered, a mix of curious faces and seasoned entrepreneurs, some sipping coffee, others engaged in light conversation. Thank you all for being here today, Emily started, her voice trembling slightly. I'm excited to share our vision for the garden. The local store owner raised an eyebrow, skepticism flickering in his gaze. We're all for community projects, Emily, but what makes this different? Why should we invest time and resources into this? It felt like a burst of cold water, but Emily pressed on. Because it's not just a garden. It's a chance to foster relationships. It's about education, sustainability, and creating a space that resonates with freedom and joy. We want to tie this garden to our local businesses, creating a symbiotic relationship. She could see more faces relaxing, curiosity replacing doubt. Each word flowed with the urgency she felt in her heart. Implementing workshops and educational programs can draw people in. They shop local, learn valuable skills, and together we can nurture this beautiful space. When she finished, there was a pause, a collective breath held in anticipation. That sounds great, a woman said, a small smile creeping onto her lips. But can you sustain it long term? Emily took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the question. Yes. We're exploring partnerships and looking into grant options. We want to create a sustainable cycle that doesn't rely solely on donations but truly anchors us as a community. Applause broke the silence, and a ripple of excitement spread through the room. Jake's eyes sparkled with approval, but Emily felt the flicker of doubt creep back. Would it be enough? One by one, small contributions were pledged, donations of seeds, events, and even a mentor from the local landscaping business. Emily felt her chest swell with pride, but as they wrapped up the meeting, she couldn't shake the lingering worry. Later, as they strolled back through the garden, Jake nudged her shoulder playfully. You did it, Em. They believe in us now. Do they really? She whispered, fear draping over her like a heavy blanket. What if it all crumbles? What if we drop the ball? Then we pick it back up, he said simply, the sincerity in his eyes grounding her. The faint colors of the setting sun began to bleed into the horizon, a reminder of the day's victories and challenges ahead. The path to nurturing the garden stretched out before them, filled with possibilities but laced with doubt. Would they navigate the storm? Or would the weeds of fear choke out their dreams? As they stood in the entrance of the garden, Emily felt the earth hum beneath her feet. There was hope, but there was also a stark awareness of the fight that lay ahead. How strong could their belief hold against the weight of uncertainty? Days slipped by, each one blending into the next, much like the vibrant colors of Jake's crayon drawings on the fridge. Emily felt the pulse of the community garden in her bones, a living testament to their shared dreams. The meetings kept their spirits high, laughter echoed through the air, mingling with the scent of freshly turned soil. Yet, just under that surface of joy, anxiety clung stubbornly to her heart. She could see the garden thriving, blooming just as their hopes ignited. But every tap of the spade in the earth whispered reminders of doubts. What if they couldn't maintain this momentum? As Emily toiled alongside neighbors, hands stained with dirt and sweat on sunny Saturdays, glimpses of fear darted in and out of her mind like flickering shadows. Mom! Look! Jake's excited voice had her turn and smile. He darted toward her, crumbs of sunflower seeds clinging to his chubby fingers. We can make bird feeders. We have to keep them safe. His candor tugged at her spirit in a way that made her breath hitch. You're right. It would be a nice addition to our garden, Jake. A welcoming spot for all. It was moments like these, his innocent enthusiasm, that made her feel a flicker of hope. Yet just as the light of that hope flickered, the clouds of worry gathered again. After a week of steady rain, their joyful progress faced a daunting setback. The council had surprised them with an emergency meeting, propelled by growing doubts and safety concerns. A thick tension hung in the room like fog, wrapping around each heart that dared to dream. Emily stood at the front, Jake clutching her side, his small, confident face peering up at her. What if they say no this time? He whispered, the innocence of his dread seeping into her resolve. I don't know, buddy, she replied, smoothing a hand over his hair, but we have to believe we can convince them. The council meeting was a rocky road. She faced a line of eyes, some bore encouragement, while others cast doubt like stones. This isn't going to work, a voice from the back muttered. Emily drew in a deep breath, rallying her conviction. But what if it does? We've already come together as a community. We're turning dreams into reality, one seed at a time. But the voices of dissent clouded her efforts. It's a pipe dream, Emily, they insisted, echoes of skepticism reverberating around her. You can't expect change overnight. Too much chatter, not enough action. The weight of their judgment threatened to crush her spirit. She looked down at Jake, and it was as if he could read her thoughts. Refusing to let her heart succumb to despair, she straightened up. What if we really are just getting started? She yelled, earning stares that silenced the room. Everything beautiful begins with a dream, and then the hard work follows. Suddenly, though, an unexpected ally rose. It was old Mr. Jenkins, voice shaking with age but steady with resolve. I've seen Emily do the work. She is not just dreaming, she is building. We're volunteering, we're offering resources. It's not an illusion, it's a collective uprising. He added, pointing to the growing crowd of locals supporting her. Something in that moment flickered alive, igniting the room. One by one, faces transformed from skepticism to understanding, from doubt to hope. We want something to believe in, a neighbor echoed. For our kids and every generation that comes after. The air buzzed with renewed energy as voices began to rise around Emily. I stand with the garden, another said, his tone strong, we all do. With a swell of emotion, the council members exchanged looks, uncertainty giving way to hope. All right. Let us put this to a trial period, one finally said, the timbre in his voice softening like the sun breaking through clouds. But we'll need support from everyone here. We take on this effort together. A roar of applause erupted, shattering the barriers of worry. Emily stood frozen, her heart racing. She glanced at Jake, whose eyes twinkled with a victorious gleam. This was it. They had done it together. Relief swept her away, leaving behind the waves of doubt crashing against her shore. As she left the meeting, gripping Jake's hand, she felt the weight lift off her shoulders. They had turned a corner, igniting a movement that couldn't be snuffed out. In the weeks to follow, those seedlings of compassion and trust would blossom into something powerful, a garden not just for flowers, but a tapestry of lives interwoven. Under the evening skies painted with lavender and gold, Emily watched as the community came together, their laughter carrying on the wind. She saw her father among the crowd, still a bit hesitant, yet pride glimmering in his eyes as he helped hammer bits of wood for a new bench. In that moment, she realized her fears had been misplaced. Transformation wasn't easy, but it was possible. It took the collective will of Maplewood, the spirit of a few brave hearts willing to sow seeds of change. Above all, it was built on love and unity. Jake tugged at her hand, dragging her from her thoughts. "Come on, Mom. Help me plant the sunflowers." As she knelt in the dirt beside him, laughter spilling over, she felt it, the pulse of a dream flourishing. They had nourished each other like these very seeds they sowed. Together, they would grow, together, they would thrive. And as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, making room for the stars, Emily closed her eyes, letting the warmth of that belief wash over her. They had climbed mountains and crossed valleys. This was only the beginning. So, don't stop here. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories about transformation and hope. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread this journey of growth. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. Tell us how it touched your heart. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation and the power of community. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Be part of the heartbeat of this story and the ones yet to come.